want to learn the One Piece card game, you've come to the right place. I am going to give you an in-depth guide. So first, One Piece card game is a battle card game where these are called leader cards. Two leaders duke it out, and when they run out of their life, then the loser is decided when one dies. Let's start with the leader. Every deck will have a leader. A leader is basically your main character. It's the character you will build the deck around. As you can see here, we have a little leader tag or written right there. And so the leader, each leader has its own special ability. They have their power and they have their life, as well as their color denomination. Your leader can either be a single, a monocolor, or a multicolor, meaning two. So it's one or two colors for a leader. So for example, we have, this is a red leader, or you could have a multicolor leader, like this is a green and purple Doflamingo. And in general, a mono leader will have 5 life, and a dual color will have 4 life. There are some exceptions to the rule, but in general, that is the general rule. So now every leader has their own unique ability and their own unique attribute depending on their affiliation in the One Piece world. For example, this one is Choshinsei, which means supernova, and Mugiwara Ichimi, which is Straw Hat Pirate Group or Straw Hat Team. Now, this particular leader has 5 life, 5,000 power, and its ability allows you to attach a rested dawn to your leader or one of your characters. Now, in general, most leaders can attack, unless it specifically states that it can't. For example, this iceberg leader, here it says, Kono leader wa attack dekinai. This leader can't attack. Now, in exchange for this, usually, leaders that can attack have very powerful abilities. For example, this leader ability allows you to minus dawn, which means, let's say I have 4 dawn on the field. This leader ability allows me to minus a dawn in order to play a specific kind of character. So for example here, you have to rest the leader, and you can play a 5 cost or less Galela company, so GC character. You can play that for just 1 dawn. So normally it would cost you 5 to play. You can play this just by minusing a dawn. Now, minus dawn can be used even if it's rested. So for example, let's say I have the 5 dawn here. I take 5 dawn to play this poly. Then I can minus one of my rested, sending it back to the dawn deck, which means it doesn't refresh. I have to redraw it later, and I can use this to play this. So essentially I've played 2 characters for the cost of 5. In the One Piece card game, we have 3 different types of cards. We have Dawn cards, which are these. It says Dawn in Japanese. And during your turn, plus 1,000. This is the way you pay for things, pay for characters or events, which I'll explain in a different video. This is your payment system, and it's also your power system. I don't know how to explain it better. So let's say you have your leader, has 5,000 power. You can attach, and now your leader is 6,000 power. So let's say you have all this dawn. You could put all of it. You have up to 10 dawn. Every player has 10 dawn at their disposal, which it ramps up throughout the game. So let's say you could put all 10 dawn on your leader and attack for 15,000. Boom, big hit. Now, every leader has a red backing. You only have 1 of these cards. However, you see all these blue cards here. This is your actual deck. Now, in your deck, you will have variations of different kinds of cards. So you'll have character cards, as denominated here, character. you will have different costs. These are the costs. So for example, if I have a 1 cost, I use 1 Don to play this character. It costs 1 Don. Now some characters are 3 costs, some are 10 cost, and those are characters. Now characters, when they're played, cannot attack. On play, they cannot attack. However, certain characters with the orange rush, or in Japanese soko attribute, these can on the turn they're played, they can attack. Now what else, what other kind of cards do we have? We have different kinds of cards that have different abilities and such. For example, this or Zoro, if you attach a Don, gets an extra 1000 power. So it's 5000 plus 1000 plus its ability to give it another 1000. So now this character has 7000 power on attack, just with the addition of 1 Don. Now what else do we have? We have different characters that, some characters are vanilla. They have no other attribute to them other than they have a cost and power, and usually when they have no ability, they will have a counter. Now a counter, this is out of hand, and I will explain it later during the battle segment. This is a way to protect your allies or your character. We also have the blocker denomination. So for example, this little chopper has this blocker, buroka, right here. This will basically allow this character to take an attack for your leader or for another character. So say your opponent is attacking you, you can declare a blocker, and different blockers have different power levels. So let's say my opponent is attacking me for 5000, I can declare this blocker, and the blocker takes the attack and dies for me. Get down, Mr. President. I will use this singular Katarina Devon card to illustrate the 3 types of attributes that a character could have, because she has the unique ability to use all 3 individually. So you can see here, during your turn, if your leader is the Blackbeard Pirates, you may choose one of the 3 attributes. So double attack, banish, or blocker. Rush is not one of them, so there are 4 total. So double attack, meaning it doesn't double your attack, literally. Double attack is a little bit tricky in terms of explanation, because they don't really explain it in the rules very well. Double attack, essentially, when you attack, if you attack your opponent and they do not block, they will take 2 life instead of 1. If your opponent only has 1 life, they will only lose 1 life and they won't die from it. They won't be KO'd from it, because it used to be like that, but they changed the rules because it was a little bit too powerful. Banish is if you hit the opponent's life, if you hit them and they don't block, the life is then lost directly to trash rather than going into your hand. And blocker, as I explained before, blocker is it defers the attack onto this character. Blockers can only be used if the character is active. So if the character is rested, like this, it's been used, or from an effect has been rested, you cannot use it to declare a block. It can only be a blocker when active. Now, when you are playing One Piece, you can have up to 5 characters in play at one time, not including your leader, who is always here. Your characters stay here until they are either KO'd, removed from play, or sometimes they can get bottom decked. So some of characters from your opponent's effects, or even your own, can take a character from the field and directly put it to the bottom of your deck, rather than just straight up KOing and putting it into the trash. Now, one other way that a character can be removed is if your area is full and you want to play another character. Let's say I have all these characters out, but I want to replace one of them with this Luffy. Take the cost, so 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You rest the 5, and you can play this one instead of another one, and this one goes into the trash. Now I would like to explain the board. So as you can see, we have leader card goes here, boom. Deck goes here, trash, and life. Now, trash is anytime you use a counter out of hand, anytime your life is banished to goes directly to the trash rather than in your hand, or anytime you use an ability or an event, I should say, or anytime a character is KO'd. So let's say here we have these two characters on the field, and I have these cards in hand. I have my Dawn goes on the Dawn deck, and the Dawn goes into the cost area. So this is where I keep my Dawn. So let's say I use this ability here, I use 4, I use this event, KO something, it goes into my trash. Or for example, my character is KO'd, it goes into the trash. My opponent hits me with a banish, boom, straight to trash. Now, on to explain life. Life is an interesting concept in the One Piece card game. So maybe if you're coming from Pokemon, you have on the side the prize pool. You have your prize cards. The object of the game is to take all your prize cards first before your opponent, and that's how you win. One Piece is the exact opposite of that. Your life is your life. If you lose all your life, so let's say all your life is KO'd. So if, for example, your opponent attacks you, you're not able to counter or block in any way, you lose a life. Now when you lose a life, normally it goes right into your hand. Once you lose all your life, so let's say, boom, I get hit again, boom, I get hit again. Now sometimes you have this little yellow and black bar here called a trigger, toriga. So every trigger has its own different effect. Now triggers can only be used when they come off your life. So if I'm hit by an attack that I can't block, I take a life and I check. You don't have to show your opponent, you can just check for yourself, and you can see, oh, so for this trigger, my leader or one character for this turn gain 1000 power. So I can choose, just in this split second, to use it or keep it. If you use it, you lose it. So, for example, my opponent is swinging, let's use this Luffy as my opponent. My opponent is swinging 6000 power at me. I cannot defend it, so I have to lose a life. Boom. Okay, here's a trigger. For the rest of my turn, my character or my leader can get 1000 power. Now let's say my opponent has another, we'll put this Frankie right here. Let's say my opponent has another attacker, and I know I don't have enough to counter it. I can say I use this trigger. So now my cost for this, or not my cost, my power for this next interaction and the rest of this turn, my opponent's turn, meaning my character is at 6000 power. So let's say he swings with the 6000. I'm already at 6. I only need 1000 to counter out and protect my leader. That's triggers. So there's many different kinds of triggers. Some triggers, for example, some triggers KO other characters. For example, this Gum Gum Jet Pistol on trigger, KO a 6000 power or less character. So let's say, my opponent swings 6000 at me. Boom, I take it off, and I see my opponent has another character on the field. I can declare this trigger. Boom. Trigger, KO this character. Boom, he can't attack, and I'm safe from another interaction. So triggers can vary the game. They're insane variable in this game. They can really switch up a game in an instant depending on the trigger. Some triggers prevent your opponent from attacking entirely. Some triggers give you a life. Some triggers, they run the gambit. And some triggers can play another character. So let's say I get hit, boom, play this card on trigger, boom. Now on the next turn, I have another attacker. So life is important because it keeps you alive, but it can also help you in the long run. Now, let's say you lose all your life, boom, trigger, another one. let's say I lose all my life. If I have 0 life, I'm still alive. But it's when I get hit again at 0 life, that's when I lose the game. Now, I would like to use this opportunity to explain counters and how to protect yourself and your characters. Now, every character has this number here, 6,000, 5,000, 5,000. This is your attack power, and it's also your defense power. So, for example, my opponent has a Kuzan on the field who is 5,000 power. Let's say he swings 5,000 on, we'll put a weaker character. We'll put this weak Sanji down. So this Sanji has 4,000 power. Now let's say he swings 5,000 on the 4,000. I need to increase my power by 2,000 in order to block this. I need to be higher than 5,000. Now, there's a couple ways I could do that. In your hand, you have these characters, which have what it says here, counter plus 1,000. These are called out-of-hand counters. So, for example, my opponent swings 5,000 on my 4,000 character. 1,000 brings them up to 5,000, and another 1,000 brings them up to 6,000. These characters, these cards go straight into the trash, and just for this single interaction, his power is raised to 6,000, and as soon as the attack is done, they go back down. Now, for example, let's say he beefs himself up. He goes, you know what, I'm swinging 8,000 rather than the 5,000. You can attach 3 Dawn. He can swing 8,000. Let's say he's swinging 8,000 on this 4,000. We'll redo this little scenario. These two just aren't going to cut it. There are also 2K counters. So you can see here, plus 2,000. So I could say, okay, well, here's 6,000, 7, 8, 9. Boom, I've blocked the interaction. However, you can see I've lost 4 cards out of my hand. So while it is useful to keep your characters alive, sometimes you have to decide, okay, is this 4,000 power character worth saving? Or should I save this in order to save my other characters, assuming my opponent has more cards to attack with? Now, one more thing is we have the out-of-hand counter from these. These only cost the card itself. You don't need to pay the cost of the character. You just have to throw it out, boom, +1, boom, +2, +3, +4, like that. You also have events. Now, these events, if they have this red marker and it says counter here, you can see that. This costs 1 Dawn to use. So I rest a Dawn and I declare the counter. This is your own leader or character for this interaction, for this battle, gets plus 3,000. So again, let's say he's swinging 8,000 on my 4,000 character. I have my single Dawn up, I rest it, I use this to give him plus 3,000. So he's now at 7. Then I use this to give +2, 8, 9. Boom, he's saved, and I've used much fewer cards. They cost more in terms of your Dawn. However, they can really save you in a pinch. Some counters are 2 cost. In general, you'll see around 2 cost to play, and you'll get around 4,000 plus with another effect. But in general, every deck doesn't run a counter like this, but the decks that do are very powerful defensively. Now I'd like to explain a stage card, which is here. Stage cards are a certain kind of card with the stage attribute here, stage. Now stage cards, so for example, this is a 2 cost, so I would rest 2 Dawn to play this stage card. Now, stage cards are usually leader locked or character locked. For example, this stage says that this is Kido main, so during your main phase, you may rest this stage. If you do so, one of your Mugiwara Ichimi, so one of your Straw Hat Pirate Crew characters or leader gets for this turn plus 1,000 power. So let's say I use this ability on the Sanji, he is now 5,000 power, and I can attack like that. This also works well in combination with this leader ability, so I rest the 2, play this 1000 Sunny, rest it, give him 1000 power. Then I use his ability to attach a rested Dawn, and now, boom, he's 6000 power, just like that. Now, not all stages are the same. For example, this is a stage that increases your power, but let's say we're using the Iceberg Leader. Iceberg Leader is on the field. This stage, the Galilea Company, is a 3-cost stage, which I rest, play. You may rest this stage. If your leader is Iceberg, get 1 Dawn from the Dawn deck rested. So you can ramp Dawn, you can get Dawn quicker. So then on my next turn, when I refresh, I have 1 extra Dawn to use. And then the stage refreshes as well. I can use it again, get another one. Now on my next turn, I'll be at 10 Dawn. Now I'd like to explain the concept of active and rested. So now in One Piece, when you attack, so let's say I pump up this character, I add 2 Dawn. So these Dawn are attached. These don't count as rested Dawn. I attach them and I rest the character. Even though these are rested, they're technically attached. They do not count as rested. I rest it when I attack, which means I've used the character. It's attacked. Some characters are able to unrest themselves, or some card events are able to unrest, or even leader abilities can rest or unrest characters. Now, in general, a character attacks, it is rested. Character attacks, it is rested. Attack, rested. Leader, attack, rested. Now, active characters cannot be attacked into unless the card itself specifically states that it can attack active cards. But in general, an active character cannot be attacked. So for example, let's say my opponent has this active Bruno. I cannot attack this. Even if it's a weak, doesn't matter the power level. Let's say it's a 2000 power character and my character has 6000 power, I can't attack it, no matter what. Unless the character I'm using specifically says that it can attack, or I use an ability that says I can attack active characters. When a character is rested, it can be attacked. So for example, all my characters can be attacked by an opposing character. So let's say this Polly swings 6000 at my character. It goes through because it's rested. Now, Dawn can also be rested. If I were to use 2 Dawn, or let's say I'll use 4 Dawn in order to play this character. Characters come out active, they're played active, and the Dawn is rested. My leader ability allows me to take 1 rested Dawn and attach it to a character in any way I see fit. So that's active and rested. Active characters cannot be attacked, and rested characters can't attack because they've already attacked or they've been rested by an opponent's ability. So for example, green, the color green cards, they have a lot of resting capabilities. So for example, this card, let's say I attack my opponent for 6000. They use this counter, which gives them plus 4000 in counter and rests a 4 cost or less. So I swing with this one, they block it, and they rest my Zoro. Now I can't use this character either because it's been rested. And the same with stage, if you rest it, it means it's been used. If you rest a Dawn, it means it's been used. Of course, there are different ways to untap, to unrest them, but in general, very simple. I'll keep it simple. Rest means used. Now I want to go through the phases of One Piece card game. So you have first the refresh phase. Then you have the draw phase, the dawn phase, your main phase, and the end phase. In order to illustrate these phases, I will show you a little scenario. My turn is finished, I've done attacking. my opponent has attacked me, and now it's time for me to start my turn again. First is the refresh phase. You can see all my characters are rested, and so are my Dawn. So the refresh phase is first I take everything, set them back up as active, all go back active, and so do my Dawn. Everything is refreshed. Then I have the draw phase, which means I draw one card from my deck. Then is the Dawn phase, which means I draw 2 Dawn from the Dawn deck. So now I'm at 8 Dawn. And then we have the main phase. Now, main phase is where you're able to use the Dawn, use the attacks, use your abilities, and general play. So for example, let's say I use 4 to use this event here, which can only be during this blue icon here, can only be used during my main phase. I can, let's say I have an opponent with a Van Augur, like this. My opponent has the Van Augur, boom, I KO the Van Augur. And now I have 4 Dawn left to play with. Then I can also use my leader ability, which I can take a rested Dawn, attach it to a character, and then I can use that to boost his attack, which makes him plus 1000 power, and also I can choose a character to boost as well on attack. Now let's say I also want to play a character, so I'll do 2 to play this Brook. Now this Brook has something called a Tojoji, or on-play ability. This one, for example, this one, as soon as he hits the field, this ability activates. Your leader or character, up to one of your leaders or characters, gets 2 rested Dawn. So I'll take those 2, I'll put them onto him. Boom. So he kind of pays for himself in a way. And then let's say I'll put 1 on my leader as well. So there's also sequencing, when do you want to attack with which character, and so on and so on. So let's say I swing first with this Jinbei, so he's 6000 power. So on attack, another one of my characters or leader can get a plus 1000 bonus. So I'll swing with this one and give the Frankie a plus 1000 bonus. So 6000 and power him up. Then he swings 7000, and then my next character swings 6000, and then this character also swings 6000. And he cannot attack because he was just played. He cannot attack in the same turn he was played unless he has the rush attribute. And then in the end phase, different characters or different leaders have different kinds of abilities. For example, this Don Quixote, this one, Jibun no Tan Shuryoji. So at the end of your turn, during your end phase, set 2 Dawn as active. So if I were to be playing this leader, I would set 2 Dawn as active and then pass the turn. So there are many different characters that do different things, but that's pretty much the only thing in the end phase. Everything else would be your main phase for most decks.
going later. Haha. You weak ass bitch.
You got me.